Hello, Ashleigh and I will be presenting our final business strategy for Metcash. Supermarkets and grocery stores retail a range of groceries and food lines, including fruit and vegetables, bread, cigarettes, dairy goods and cleaning goods. As you can see here, the major players in the supermarket industry is Woolworths, Wesfarmers, Aldi, IGA, Foodworks, Costco and Spar Australia. As you can see displayed here in the table, Wesfarmers and Woolworths have the majority of the market. So what are the external key drivers in the grocery industry? Real household disposable income. In periods of low disposable income, consumers are more likely to purchase only basic products and do without luxury products such as gourmet foods and deli items. Consumer sentiment index affects supermarket spending levels. Consumer sentiment takes into account an individual's feelings towards his or her own current financial health, the health of the economy in short term, and the prospects for longer term economic growth. Expenditure on hotels, cafes and restaurants. Over the past decade, the number of Australians eating out has increased and households now spend a greater percentage of their income on meals outside the home. The population growth affects the number and location of supermarket and grocery stores in Australia. So a competitor analysis was done. Woolworths, they have sustained just below 40% market share for the past 5 years, and their major strategies undertaken in that same period of time has been cutting prices of everyday basics to encourage more shoppers into their stores. They've also implemented private labelled goods into various segments of base cheap products, mid-range products, high-end products and organic ranges. You may know these as Macro Foods and Woolworths Select. Now if you look at the table, you will see that the gearing percentage of Woolworths is quite high. This means that they've lended most of their capital. However, they are still profitable, and what we found fairly concerning was that they don't really have a healthy liquidity ratio, which means they can't pay short-term debts on time. So Wesfarmers is the second major force in the industry. Their strategies are very similar to Woolworths. They are also implementing more private labelled goods and making them better quality and more appealing packaging, and they're using their down initiative to cut prices on everyday goods. As you can see the table here, they are not as highly geared as Woolworths, and they have a satisfactory return on assets, and they appear to have more room to move by these figures. Okay, so an internal analysis on Metcash. They're the third largest force in the grocery industry. The core competencies that they've developed over their time in the industry has been buying, merchandising, marketing, brand building, distribution, logistics and warehousing. But what are they lacking? And what we found was control and management of stores. They can't really influence what is done in their stores as much as Coles and Woolworths can, and they are really lacking the financial leverage to grow, which is really displayed in their gearing. They're really highly geared, and this will make it hard for them to get capital anywhere else to grow. However, they do have a healthy liquidity ratio, which means if they face some short-term financial difficulties, they will come through.
Key strategic issues. Threats from competitors. Metcash has a number of different strategic issues influencing its current performance, particularly in the grocery sector. Unfortunately for Metcash, there are a number of significant threats that directly affects business. Metcash is currently struggling to compete with a number of different competitors infiltrating the market in terms of expansion, size, price, and popularity. Coles and Woolworths are currently the two biggest supermarket giants in Australia due to their sheer size and low price promise. The grocery sector in particular has always been driven by a cost-conscious customer, which is a huge issue to factor into the equation. Costco and Aldi are also posing massive problems for Metcash as they continue to successfully make their way into the Australian supermarket industry. These foreign companies are also becoming increasingly popular that analysts are certain it won't be long before Costco Australia will make a big impact for suppliers and its retail customers. Market share. So another issue Metcash struggles with is their small portion of market share. Because of this, Metcash is poorly positioned to compete with the majors, Coles and Woolworths, which means the company's market share will continue to fall as the major supermarket chains continue to gain more market share in the industry. This is especially important due to the large impact the supermarket industry has on Metcash business, which accounts for 85% of earnings per annum. And another key strategic issue is management of the supply chain. So management of the supply chain is a serious problem many different companies of every size and every industry faces, and Metcash is no exception. The poor management of inadequately considered supply chains can ultimately lead to significant stock losses and therefore direct financial repercussions. Unlike that of Metcash, Woolworths has recently undertaken a series of supply chain management improvements. The issue here is that Metcash's progression in the field of supply chain management is non-existent. This is definitely an issue Metcash needs to address quickly, as it is important that Metcash does not allow their competitors to gain a further competitive advantage in an area Metcash is already doing so poorly in. Alternative strategies. Niche markets. Metcash has already developed a number of alternative strategies that should not only enable them to receive a larger market share, but also help ward off threats and competitors. As of 2011, Metcash anointed itself as the champion of brands by distancing itself from Coles and Woolworths and the growing predation of home brand food across the nation's supermarket shelves. This particular strategy could prove in favour of Metcash, as although a low price is obviously important in order to attract customers, so is the need for customers to buy products from local Australian suppliers and companies. It is important Metcash engages in a core capability other competitors in the market do not currently engage in. This is also an approach Metcash could consider in relation to exploring a niche market. Metcash could focus on this particular niche market, as this particular need for the product or service is not currently being addressed by mainstream providers. And acquisitions. Another alternative Metcash could explore even further is their liquor and hardware acquisition. In the hardware and automotive sector, Metcash acquired, the EBITDA rose 71% to $36 million, following the acquisition of 75% of the automotive brands group and the remaining 50% of Mitre 10. This 71% increase suggests this is an avenue that would be well worth for Metcash to explore further in order to increase their revenues. The liquor industry for Metcash was also extremely successful, as the company labelled the liquor business a story of growth.
So our final recommendation for Metcash is that they should take up the niche market opportunity. As Woolworths and Coles are really focusing on cutting prices and implementing private labelled goods, Metcash should just stock more of the popular trusted brands, and they should stay away from the private labelled products, as customers will feel comfortable and safe and not forced to purchase private labelled products. And then they'll also find that they have more variety, and then they will attract a diverse customer base.